So, David, really nice to meet you, brother. Really nice to meet you. Thanks so much for taking time. Man, how you doing? How is everything?
Everything's fantastic, man. It couldn't be better. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No, I've been looking forward to it. So listen, why don't we start at the very beginning? Take us back. Like, for those who don't know, what do you remember about the Baywatch audition? And then how did you get that gig of Cody Madison? What do you remember about that?
They had seen I was replacing the existing young heartthrob David Chokachi was leaving the show, and they were looking for the new guy to kind of come in. And basically, they'd seen over 1,000 guys on the East Coast and West Coast, and casting these two female casting directors were so beaten down, man. I remember I walked in the room and like their heads were down. They were just over it. And I walk in and let me preface this. One of the executive producers, her name's Deb Schwartz, and she wrote Cody. She created the character of Cody, and she had something very specific in mind for the actor who's going to portray that role. And so I walk in the door, and their heads go like this. They go, "Holy shit, you're the guy. You're the guy we've been looking for. Please tell us you can act. Please tell us you can act." And I was like, great. I didn't say one word, man. And I went out to do the scene, but I fit the mold exactly. Kind of the character was supposed to be from the Midwest, an Olympic hopeful swimmer. I was an athlete back east. I was on the swim team. I had all these things I was kind of made for Baywatch, like with the skills I had, driving boats, being a certified scuba diver already, everything. So, but that began the process of 5 more auditions plus a swim test, which I crushed. And then one of the creators, he's also still an active lifeguard at age 72. And my daughter is in the junior lifeguard program, the LA County lifeguard program, and she's about to at Zuma Beach, where he also is an instructor, and she's about to enter his group finally. So it's like the full circle, man. It's so cool.
That is cool, really cool. I love that they looked at you and said, "Oh, dude, tell me you can act. Tell me you can act." That is really funny.
Yeah, and then I was like,
So luckily you could act. So at that time, could you have imagined a better gig for yourself?
Honestly, no, man, because I went to Bates College. I played football and lacrosse, and I had a desire to pursue this field. And I'd been out to LA for a lacrosse trip, and I was like, you know what, it's too hard to pursue. I grew up in Boston and Plymouth, Mass, and it was too hard. So I drove out here and gave it a go. And when I stepped onto that set, it was just a fully oiled machine. It hadn't even peaked yet in terms of popularity. It was still climbing. So it was like day one. I remember I can't even watch that first scene. It's so bad. But, I quickly saw what works, what were the traps, being in really good fitness, physical shape. And then I worked with my acting coach at night. And I just did this rinse, repeat every day. I just grinded and I worked on my craft, and I maintained incredible physique. And sure, when you get the job, it's a 5-year deal. And they go, "Congratulations, but by the way, we're guaranteeing you 7 out of 22 with a possibility of you only doing 7 and maybe dropping you, or you could do 22 out of 22 depending on how you perform and the audience reacts." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I went into full just warrior mode, and I just did what I mentioned every single day. And I quickly saw the more fit I was, and once they saw how I could, and my ocean skills, they could see me driving boats and rescues, my scuba ability, everything. They just started writing me into more. I ended up doing 19 out of 22 that first year, and then I kind of just took off from there. It was awesome.
All right, so let me ask you this before we talk about where this thing kind of turns a little bit. For those who do not remember, or maybe we're not there for it, David, how ubiquitous was Baywatch? How much of an influence did this have on the pop culture worldwide?
In a sense, it was, I don't know if you call it sad, but it's funny because people would come, they'd travel here. Literally, their vacation from Eastern Europe would be, "We're flying to LA because you could watch Baywatch being filmed because we could only police tape off about, so much." And that would be their trip. And when I talk to fans overseas, they think obviously these are more remote places. And this was back in the 90s before there's internet. So they thought all of the United States, or at least all of California, was like Malibu beaches, which was pretty funny. But man, I've traveled, Jim, to some of the most remote places on the planet. And where Baywatch pops up, we were in the Galapagos on National Geographic, and they had a red rescue can, and we get in the boat to go to the island, and one of the guides goes, "Okay, everybody, this is the drill. Your life jackets, and this is our rescue can. We call it Pamela." And I was like, "No way, man! This is where we're in the Galapagos Islands." So I waited a couple of days, and then I told the guides, and they were freaking out, man. We took pictures together. I mean, I've been to some just really far off places like Chile, like this tiny like customs place, and the guy's double like looking at my passport. I'm like, "Oh no!" And he's like, Cody from Baywatch." And he comes running out from behind like the plexiglass. He's like, "Can I take a picture?" I mean, so I don't think that, I look at it, I don't think there's ever been a show or a movie that's had the global penetration, like just massive, as Baywatch. It's incredible, like the reach it had.
All right, so it's the biggest thing in the world. It's the best thing in the world until it's not. Like, for instance, what was the most challenging time of your life that people did not see or did not know about necessarily?
Well, as an actor coming right off the show, there was a full stigma about all the actors on the show. They felt like if you were on Baywatch, and they automatically wrote you off. You were not a good actor. And to this day I defend the show. The show was, first of all, we're portraying LA County lifeguards. We all had the proper training. There were some corny things we had to do, but we never said we were doing Shakespeare in the Park. We were professing that we're like doing this. We were doing a certain medium of entertainment. And it really just kind of like rubbed me wrong that everybody just took this stance against all the actors, like across the board. And it took years, man. It's like to break that stigma until people were like, oh, "Okay, I guess you can act." But coming off the show, I'd go in for an audition for something that I was super right for, and they would already prejudge me. So there was like double pressure on myself, and it was just it's just kind of just the way it was. Eventually we all got over it, but it was just it's kind of, I don't want to say ignorant, but nobody stepped back and took a bigger look at it, and said, "Oh wow, this show has 1.1 billion viewers a week, and there's only 5.5 billion people on the planet." Like, if you just looked at that number alone before you decided to judge us as an actor, and you've never seen the show as a casting director, like, I think you'd go, "You know what? That many people are watching the show. They must be doing something right." You know what I mean?
No, it's wild. That's a wild number. And again, to your point, nobody ever pretended to be anything that they weren't, or that the show was anything that it wasn't. It was just really entertaining, and it had a lot of eyeballs. And then you have this stigma, and then, we see this in sports, this as an athlete. Once you get hit with a label, it's almost impossible to shake. Then you suffered a really devastating injury. What happened?
I was on a movie set back east, and I was playing a cop, and the whole movie, it was all dialogue, except about an eighth of a page was action. And so I'm walking down the hallway in this hospital. We're kind of protecting this patient who's been a victim of this crime, and I see this. I'm on the phone. I hit a mark, and I see it's the bad guy, and I go, "Hey, stop!" And I go to sprint and go after him. We do it once. It was like 1 a.m. It was super humid. I'm in these clumsy work boots to like cop boots. Everybody's like, "Let's go home. We're tired. And then someone, it wasn't the director, and it wasn't even the DP, which kills me. Someone goes, "Let's do it one more time." And we go to do it one more time. And I had torn my left one like 30 years ago. So I knew the feeling. And it's the worst feeling. I've broken my femur in 8th grade, dude. And that was not even near as bad. It's like when you rupture your Achilles, it's almost like, it's instant, but it feels like it's happening in slow motion, like a shredding, like, and they're like, "You probably just sprained it." And I knew instantly what it was. So emergency room, x-rays, it looks pretty to separate. And then, one thing about Achilles repair rupture is you have like a 14-day window to get it repaired. Otherwise it becomes really difficult to reattach certain things. So I owed one more day on the movie. I was like, it was a friend of mine's investment. And I was like, "Just put me in a boot. I'll finish the movie." Meanwhile, I'm trying to make calls to find a surgeon. The guy who had done my left leg, which I ruptured playing paddle tennis, and that was a much worse tear, but I got a trauma surgeon on a Sunday night at St. John's, and this guy was like a miracle worker. I tore that in March, and I was shooting Baywatch in June, and I was jogging by June, and never a problem. This one, I was scrambling to find a surgeon to get on it, because you have to get on the surgical schedule. You have to get an MRI, physical, X-ray, blood work, all that has to be done before they say, okay, you can have surgery. So I went with this guy, and he just, about a year after, and it's the worst PT you're on. It's non-weight bearing for 6 weeks. Then you're just slowly doing, bands, everything, you name it. It's mind-bending PT, and you're isolated. You're by yourself a lot. It's kind of, it's just not, I mean, I
Dude,
know
it's lonely. It's lonely, man.
It's super lonely. And especially someone like me, I'm like always like, let's go surfing. I have a daughter, I have dogs, and I'm just like pinned to the couch, man. So, but a year later, I found out my foot's loose. It's not tight. So I go see 3 specialists. One guy at UCLA goes, no, I'm not touching that. A second guy who was a specialist I just met goes, yeah, it looks like you have an issue, but David, I can tell you're an athlete. He goes, you'll lose your effing mind if you go through this. You're talking about starting 15 months all over and starting the timeline again, another 15 on the 15 you just did. Third guy goes, if I don't go in there and cut out a section, you'll never push off your foot again. And I was like, let's go, cut it out. And, I made a gym about, I don't know, a couple months into that second rehab, but my whole body, never even physically or mentally or spiritually, I never recovered from the first one. And I had the second one. And then I just felt myself go into a darkness and a depression. And I've never been that kind of person, but my physical body and my brain, everything, the way I'm wired, is so used to getting positive feedback. I all about fitness and exercise. And it's like rip. And then also I work as an actor, and you rip all that away from someone, and now they're stuck, and just negative thoughts start pouring in after that second surgery. And I found myself just locked in this absolute zone of flatness. It was like, it was one of the scariest things I've ever had happen to me, because I felt like I had lost myself. I was like, how will I ever get back to the person who loves life? I lost that. Fast forward to towards the end of the 3 years, I start ice plunging, sauna. All of a sudden, I was torturing myself. My wife was like, what are you doing? It's 41 degrees. You're in there 10 minutes, 3 times a day. But I felt a spark when I was in the ice plunge, when I was literally just like, all of a sudden I felt like a spark of my being come back. And then we ended up moving out to Malibu full time that summer. And I gleaned and kind of picked up all this stuff from Jocko, from Andrew Huberman, from those two mainly, in terms of kind of biohacks on how to get out of the darkness, basically. And I just would do them. And then another guy, this Navy SEAL, DJ Shipley, who created this he came back and he just went into the same kind of thing. He created kind of a system called stacking micro wins. And then Jocko talks about the easiest win you can get in a day is getting up super early. So now, man, I am up literally 3:30 or 4 now. Is that. I'm up. My body, I can't sleep past that. It's the weirdest thing. But through all that suffering, Jim, I mean, I would do things like Huberman said, go watch the sunrise, because you can watch it for 2 or 3 minutes. It's really good, positive for your brain. I would take that summer. I took my dog. I probably saw 50 sunrises with my dog. Just walking barefoot, breath work. I would work out even though I felt like crap. No sugar, everything like that. My diet was super clean. And I surrounded myself with a community of people that I already knew. I started engaging in community, and I realized humans are really not good alone for long periods of time, because I mean, I was like guinea pigs example, for a long period of time. I mean, I love being alone now, but for 3 years of loneliness, man, it was like next level, because once I started re-engaging with buddies, and I could go to the beach and I could start ocean swimming, and then I got direct sunlight and all these things like Huberman talks about, and I would just stack the wins like DJ Shipley talks about. And I did that every day for 2 or 3 months in a row. And I felt myself, Jim, go from the bottom, the worst place I've ever been in my life. And I'm always, the glass is pouring. It's more than half full guy. But I've never been to a place where I felt I lost my sense of self. But I went from the bottom. I did this stuff religiously for 2 or 3 months, and I felt myself just skyrocket. And I felt all of a sudden like I had a mini superpower. It was the craziest thing in the world. that September, I did a film that was really challenging. It called for a lot of emotion. This guy had suffered a lot of trauma. This firefighter, he and his son are on a camping trip. A lot of stuff happens, but I had to access a lot of emotion. And I drilled this. I just crushed the role so much that this director who I'd worked with twice before, even the DP, they were like, holy, what happened to Chokachi? Because they had worked on movies before. They go, he was really good before, but like now he's on a whole new level. And what I realized was, and I used to meet with a spiritual counselor once a week. And he used to tell me there's a Buddhist saying that, you know, when you're in the most amount of pain, whether it's physical or emotional, that's when the most amount of spiritual growth will happen. And I'm like, that's awesome, dude, but that's not working. That's not helping. Nothing, zero was working until I started cold plunging and then doing those things and being in nature. Like nature, I think, was the biggest healer for me. But what he was saying, and I called him a few months after I experienced this kind of, I just tapped into like a higher version of myself that I didn't even know existed. Like my toughness, my grit, my ability to like, everything went up, like beyond where it was pre-injury. And it just continues to grow that way because I stick to this routine and I never break it. And it's what I like, you know, I'm so glad you're having me on. I want to share this with people because if you're stuck and you're sitting at home on the couch and you're watching Netflix, it's the worst thing you can do. It's like Jocko even says this, like if you're lost in the woods, he compares it to being lost in the woods. If you just stand there, you're going to end up dying of exposure. But if you just walk in one direction, doesn't even matter if it's the right direction, something will happen. So I took all those things, man. I just did them. And then I just had this incredible growth.
Yeah, but David, I got to ask you, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's so much to unpack there, and it's all so amazing. But the one thing that's really hard for me to get my head wrapped around, I get it. I intellectually understand all this. But were you in the darkest place, and typically your rock bottom, were you able to turn all this in 2 to 3 months with this process, with these micro wins? I mean, did you just shock your system? Was it a decision? Did this happen literally in 3 months?
Literally, because I started feeling that. Well, I started feeling this in probably May when I started cold plunging, and by September I was shooting that movie. The end of September, and by then I was like, even the end of that summer, I felt like a major shift in my entire everything, mentally, spiritually, physically. And then by the time I was shooting that film, I think we started the end of September. It literally that fast, but I was committed to it, Jim, like my life depended on it because
you did, right? Because you did.
Exactly. It did. Like I'm not a person who's scared of I'm not scared of much, but the feeling of losing yourself and I would sit there for hours, man, just like, how do I get back to who I was? And there is no going back, you know, it was like insanity. Like I'm doing this mental loop of going like, but now I look back on it, Jim, and I look back on the injury and everything, and I go, it was the greatest gift I ever received because I went on to basically just attack life and say yes to everything. Everything improved across the board. My acting, my skills, my pain threshold. Every day, I literally go from 3:30 or 4 in the morning, and I go till I'll eat dinner. I don't watch TV anymore. I used to like watching. I love the NFL. I can't even sit through a game because I kind of want to keep moving. I'll eat dinner and I'll be the one cleaning dishes, and then I'll find a way to keep moving until it's like 11, and then I just crack, and then I'm out. And I just want to squeeze. Like I think when you lose that time in your life, I was stuck in this thing. How much time I've lost. But then once I had this kind of epiphany or this, I don't know what you call it, like kind of just tapping into this higher frequency, I was like, I'm going to squeeze the most out of every day, every single day of my life until I literally am 6 feet under. And that's what I do. And I do so much stuff in one day. it would blow people's mind. Like and because I think it's when it's stripped away from you, and then you're giving it back. And then the appreciation I have for life now is tenfold. You know, I don't take anything for granted. I never really did, but in terms of wanting to like maximize my potential as a human being on this planet, try and make the planet a better place, be a good example for my daughter, be a good husband, take care of our 2 rescue dogs, and do the work I do with these groups, you know, it requires me, and also work as an actor, it requires me literally to be up that early and go that long to kind of to juggle all these balls.
David, so when it seems to me like you probably got sick of feeling sick, you probably got sick of feeling a certain way, but you got to be your own advocate, right? Like you can think, but if you don't act on these thoughts, it doesn't matter. Did you stop waiting to feel better and then start acting like the person you wanted to become?
In a sense, and people would say that to me. They're just like, they would call me, this one director, the guy who made that comment about my work, and he would say, you know, aren't you tired of feeling like this? And I'm like, you don't understand. This isn't a switch I can flip. I felt like there was nothing I could do. Like there was nothing that was working, and I was trying everything, pretty much everything, and like it just. But honestly, it was nature and just committing to that process of what DJ Shipley talks about and Jocko talks about and Goggins.
Dave, what are micro wins? What are micro wins? How would you define that,
So,
and what did they do for you?
so DJ Shipley created this because he was a top tier Navy SEAL. He came back, he slipped into something like myself, and then he figured out, okay, if I don't do something here, and his wife called him out on it, and he had some other things going on. And Jocko even talks about this, like the easiest win you can get in a day is getting up early. So and that's why I don't compromise on that no matter what, because when I get up at 4 a.m, I know, and I don't even have to tell myself this, but subconsciously my body and brain go, you are up when the entire rest of Los Angeles is sleeping. They're going to sleep 3 more hours at least. I'm going to be productive in those 3 hours. That's a win. If I go to the gym, that's a win. If I get direct sunlight, that's a win. If I work out, that's a win. If I do breath work, win. And you stack that, so you stack them, right? And then you do these every day. And it's just, so he phrased it, DJ Shipley, stacking micro wins. And you just try and stack them every day, just do them and do them again and do them again. And then I swear, man, like if people like are struggling, try this, I promise you. And I think I've sparked Huberman's interest because my buddy has told him my whole story and how I even battled back for this new role on Baywatch, and I've thanked him, like, because I found his stuff. This was the one upside, I guess, of social media. I found clips of him talking about this kind of science and physiological reaction to walking barefoot, to staring at the sun, and then I would dive deeper and read his books or listen to podcasts, and then I just started picking off all these things that these guys who really excelled in life. I picked up that, it's like an actor. We always steal from like the greatest act. You steal things that work, and it's the way it is. But I would just take what worked and I would just put it into this kind of self-discipline program. And there wasn't a day that I did not do this. Like, and that I think was the reason it turned so quickly. I mean, I was sick. Like I was so sick of it. Everybody was. No one wanted to be around me, my family. But when I shifted, it was like, people would see me and they were afraid.
The thing is, you're saying to me, like, I didn't flip a switch. I didn't flip a switch, but it sounds like almost like you did. And it wasn't like that incremental 1% better every single day. It sounds like you kind of like went all in on everything all at once. And then it just... Once I felt the spark from cold plunging.
Okay,
what did that do? For those who do not understand, because that's cold plunge. Everybody says that. I met a Navy SEAL. If you heard my pod that I did with Jocko before, my last one before you came on, I met a Navy SEAL by the name of Richard Makowitz, who I became very, very good friends with in the 90s, way back in the 90s, before any of this thing was a thing. And the first thing he told me was, if you want to cut a toughness groove in your brain, take a cold shower. I never even heard the phrase cold plunge. There weren't any cold plunges, and I tried it and I hated it. I'm like, oh, hell no, I'm not doing that. But for those who do not understand, what does a cold plunge do for you mentally and physically? How did it benefit you?
So, I mean, they all talk about it too. And like Laird Hamilton lives up the road here.
Yes.
He was years ago too. And he surfs at the same beach when he's not in Hawaii. He lives right up the road because we live right near this beautiful beach that has epic surf. And he was cold plunging years ago, years before this became a fad, probably when your buddy Navy SEAL was doing it. But it basically, it's a positive stressor on your brain and your body. So there's good stressors and bad stressors. This is a cold plunging and staying in and pushing past the threshold of I want to get out. It starts to callous your mind, which, they start talking about, you can actually, and Huberman talks about it. There's
Goggins all the time talks about callousing your mind, right?
They talk about the part of your brain where you can actually grow that. And, like, when you do things you don't want to do, like you really don't want to do it, but you do it anyway, you're callousing your mind. Cold water will do that to you because there's so many times through a 10-minute arc that when it's 41 degrees that you're like, I got to get out, but you don't get out and you stay in. And it starts to rewire your brain. And it also releases a lot of positive feedback chemicals. I forget the terms, I don't want to butcher them, but it's almost like there's a natural high when you come out of it after doing it, where you're jittering and you try and stay cold because you're burning brown fat at the highest rate you can be burning it, which is the fat you want to get rid of. So when you're in that kind of shiver mode, that's when your metabolism is firing the highest it can possibly fire at. And you want to stay that way and kind of self warm up, and you start getting ripped, man. Like I was like, man, I'm getting fit. And I was just easing back into really hard workouts. And a lot of it had to do with the cold water, and just like, it's amazing, but it's tough. I have people come over here. I've had like one of my daughter's friends' dads, he got up to his chest. I thought he was gonna have a heart attack. I'm like, what's wrong with you, man? Come on, get there.
Right.
But it really
is hard, man. That's the whole point. Choose hard.
Yeah.
Choose your hard. Choose your hard. Dude, you said something recently that I thought was great. Sorry to jump in. I wanted to ask you this.
No, go.
You said recently, if you're in a bad place, this is a quote now, instead of taking medication, take action. Instead of sitting on the couch watching Netflix, popping pills, take action. I mean, were you in that place? Were you on the couch popping pills? Did you stop? And did you take action as a way out?
Absolutely, because it got to a point where my wife was like, you got to go see a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist is like, okay, well, you need to be on this antidepressant. And then that wasn't working. He's like, well, we got to add this. Check in once a week with him for a lot of money via Zoom. Do you feel better? No, I feel actually worse. Okay, let's up the dosage, and then let's add another one. And that kept going on. That probably went on for like 3 months, until once we moved out to Malibu, and I just said, and once I felt the spark, I was like, I'm done. I'm done with all that medication. I'm done with that. Like, and I don't want to, I'm not a scientist. I'm not saying they're not good. Some people need them. For me, they were turning me into a zombie.
I was going to say, were you a zombie, dude? Were you a zombie?
Oh, yeah. And I wasn't taking anything like that would make it. It was just, I don't think these things, for some people, they turn you just flat. And I was below flat, man. I was like as uninteresting as a rock, man, or interesting as a rock. Like even my family's like, what, and so I had to get off and taper off everything slowly. And I was really, I'm not sure about Western medicine, man. I wish someone had said, hey, before you jump on all those medications that they're really encouraging you to take from a really high level psychiatrist, why don't you go try getting direct sunlight or walking on the beach or watching sunrise or breathwork or all these, but it didn't happen. It happened the way it did. And so it was a combination of getting off that stuff, all of that safely, and then implementing all those different kind of modalities, pretty much like I picked them up. I had already known about them, and all I needed was that spark, which I got from the cold plunge. And then it was like, that was like the light. It was like, that was kind of the switch where I'm like, there's my spirit. Like I could feel it. It was crazy.
All right. So before I ask you about your new purpose, so cold plunge, sauna, you're eating clean. I know you're banging weights. Do you drink at all or no? Do you not drink?
No.
Okay.
No,
That's a depressant. That's a depressant. All right. So, and rituals and disciplines and stacking wins and stacking days. As part of this comeback, am I forgetting anything? Was there anything else that went into you getting your mojo back, your life back?
No, the one thing I would add that kind of came later is that, the stuff I do with Wings of Rescue. And then also we have a fire brigade out here that's volunteer based, and we'd lost our rental house in the Woolsey fire. And then it's called the Community Brigade. And I had applied during the Franklin fire, but this is kind of this is after I'm fully like a bounce. And I've said this, Jim, and people be like, what are you talking about? You have a mini superpower. I'm like, I swear to God, like I do these.
Dude, lay it out. What is your superpower? How, like, if you have it, can I have it? Can we all have it? Like, what's the superpower?
Absolutely. You have to basically put yourself in uncomfortable positions for like, do a lot of things you don't like to do. I'm a big believer in comfort is a killer. I don't sit down.
So get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Exactly. And being of service. When I started,
go there, dude. Go there.
Yeah.
Service.
I remember rescue during, so they basically fly at-risk pets out of overcrowded shelters in states like California, Texas, and Florida are the three worst, where they're euthanizing healthy, beautiful dogs of all ages because it's of overcrowding. So if there's 100 dogs, but they have space only for 90, they're killing 10 that day. That's just the way it is. So they have their shelters from DC all the way to Maine, all like New York, Pennsylvania, all in the Pacific Northwest. And so we fly them. We just did a trip from Van Nuys, where all the shelters for these at-risk dogs and cats. We had 200 hour on our plane. We left Van Nuys at like 2 in the morning. We dropped dogs in Gary, Indiana. Dropped dogs in Delaware. Then I sprint to Philly Airport, and I start then I'm on commercial planes home. And I load the dogs. I fly with them. I unload. I take them out during the flight, like little puppies if I can, try and comfort them. But they also are the only organization that flies into active natural disasters and starts pulling dogs and cats. And every time when they go in, like they did the floods in Texas when that horrible event happened with those girls, and they never fly in empty. So when they're flying in, they have an empty, they fill the plane with, whether it's humanitarian aid, it's always veterinary aid, whether it's medical or it's like just food for dogs and cats to give out to people, whatever it is. So they fly in aid, they fly out dogs, because when there's a natural disaster, there's a giant displacement of dogs. So if say the fire ripped through here, my dog was microchipped and my dog bolted and I couldn't find it, and it ends up in the shelter. If they don't get them out of here, now you're going from an already existing overcrowded shelters all across LA to mass overcrowding, which, if you just do the math, they're going to start euthanizing dogs left, right, and center. So the shelters were the rescues like this, and then these existing shelters work with partnered ones. And these dogs are going to places where there's space, they get pre-adopted. Like people, it's the weirdest thing. They want to adopt dogs who have been through natural disasters, more so than a regular shelter dog, which is trippy. But if they're adopting, I'm happy. So it's incredible work. I've realized, Jim, like being of service, and also the community brigade, where we actually are a volunteer service and we help. We're part of LA County Fire Department, Division 7. We go through 60 hours of training. It was really hard to get into, hard to pass. You have to do a ruck at the end, 45 minutes, 45 pounds, and 3 miles, and you can't run, which is so you're walking 4 miles an hour. It's a weird thing because you've got to do this weird pace walk, but I passed, and I love it because where we live, man, and it goes back to the saying I said at the beginning, man, nobody is coming to save you. And during the Franklin fire and the Palisades fire, I had my wife and daughter go to town, and I stayed here because there were looters, and we had no power, no Wi-Fi, no heat. It happened to be freezing cold at night, but if someone had come into my home and held a gun to my head and I called 911, it would have just been static. You can't even get on a phone. Nothing is working. So if you're not prepared to protect your family, if you don't, I take emergency trauma response classes. I carry a kit in my car that's probably a total of $20 on Amazon, that if you were the first one onto a scene of bad car accident, which a lot of people are, way ahead of paramedics, a tourniquet, a seatbelt cutter, those 2 items alone will save someone's life. And I believe in that theory more than ever because of where we live, and also because there was nobody coming to save me if something went wrong, like whether it's physically or what are these looters that we went in. So we found them on the streets, man, some guy in a car at 1 in the morning, and he's pulled over with Utah plates. We're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, and he starts stumbling. He's like, I'm looking for coyotes. We're like, and I had my dog who looks super vicious, and me and my buddy were kind of dressed up we kind of look like we look like a version of Hollywood kind of SEALs or something.
Yeah, right.
But we scared this guy to crap. He peeled, and it's also illegal to be in a mandatory evacuated zone. You cannot be here unless you live here and you chose to stay. But is that not the bottom line, dude? How liberating is that? And leave us with that thought. Also, is there anything more liberating that understanding that? And that's part of extreme ownership, right? Like Jocko would say to you, "Hey, you are who you are, and you are where you are because of you. Stop pointing the finger. Stop blaming other people. You're a product of your choices, your thoughts, your decisions. And by the way, you got yourself into this. You have to get yourself out of it because nobody is coming to save you
Is that liberating?
That's it, brother. That's my literally it's my tagline. You know, I was gonna do a Patreon thing, and I still might because I wanted to share some just the training I do. But literally, I was cutting together the video, the opening thing, and it literally I start with this voiceover that nobody is coming to save you. Like, and it's true. Like when you
It
experience,
is.
you know,
Honestly, people may love you and you may have close friends, but at the end of the day, they don't care that much, and it's not their job to save you. No one is coming to save you. No one.
No, and especially if I have a daughter, you have a family, like it's your responsibility as a dad. Or if there's no dad, the mom's got to step up and fill those shoes. Someone has to, because you've got to be the leader. You've got to lead on all aspects. And even the stuff I do with Wings of Rescue or the brigade, I can't talk about this stuff to people because it turns them like they switch off. So I lead by example, Jim. I'm gone. Like I don't sleep for like 30 hours on those flights, basically, until I get on a commercial flight flying back. And I love it because I know I'm making a difference in the world. And my goal is to leave this world when I die a better place than it was when I lived here. And also to show my daughter like what being of service looks like and the positive effect it can have, not only on yourself, but in the world in general, because it can create a ripple effect around you.
So, David, so obviously purpose and service is way more important than fame. Last question.
Yeah.
Did you find yourself, or did you create an entirely new person, or something in between?
I found I found myself, but what it evolved into after doing that stuff repetitively became kind of a savage. And yeah, like literally, I mean, I have these, I do it in the sauna when I'm going, like, I just go, or I'm working out, and I learned this good trick, Jim. If you're trying to get up early and you can't, you're struggling, this psychologist, I picked this off too. So, you know, when you're trying, you're like, oh, I gotta get out of bed. You count out loud, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You count backwards, and it forces your brain to turn on because you're counting backwards. So in the beginning, I would do that to get up. And now it's like, because I don't want to miss maximizing a day, I don't miss I never missed the 3:30, 4 a.m. wake up. Even when I got back from like
Hey, David, I know why also. You know, you talk about starting with a win. You don't want to start the day with a loss. That's a loss.
No.
Right? Like you're probably, look, there are things I do that I know that I shouldn't do, that I hate myself for doing. But the one thing I never, ever, ever, ever do, no matter what, I never hit snooze. Now, most days like you, I beat the alarm. But hitting snooze is a loss, man. That immediately starts your day off with a message to yourself that, damn, I already got my ass kicked. That's a loss.
Yeah.
So you never do that, I bet.
Yeah. It's I think it's one of the best. I mean, it's not even a secret. It's just one of the best life hacks there is, because even my wife's like, you didn't sleep enough. I'm like, it doesn't matter.
How much do you sleep, though? Because sleep's a big thing, too. And I don't sleep. And most people I know don't sleep very well. How much do you sleep?
I mean, between 4 and 5 hours usually a night. But I did hear this, Jim, and I'm not sure if it's totally true yet, but let me squeeze this in, that when you start doing this for a long period of time where you only get 4 or 5 hours a night, because everybody's like, you got to get your sleep for recovery to get into REM mode. Supposedly your body starts to recognize, okay, he's only going to give us 4 or 5 hours. We have to drop into REM faster. And They have found, like, through these studies, and I don't know how clinically proven it is yet, but that your body, when it learns that this is the new routine, he's only giving us 4 to 5 hours, I drop into a recovery state faster than someone else who sleeps 7 hours. So I don't know.
Because your brain learned that. You rewired.
Yeah.
You rewired.
Yeah.
Your brain learned it. So are you a coffee guy in the morning or no?
Oh, yeah, dude. I
okay,
raced to the coffee.
Good.
I have to put ice cube in it.
I was going to say, holy shit, dude. Can we please at least have coffee? All right, good.
Oh, bro.
Good.
Yeah. I get 2 in me as fast as I can.
Good, man. David, you're the absolute best, man. This was not only as good as I thought, but so much better. So great to meet you. Thank you so much for the time and the energy, man. What an awesome inspiration you are, dude. Sincerely.
Thank you. And then check out, that Cody's coming back on the new Baywatch on Fox.
The reboot is when? The reboot is when?
It's going to be, hopefully we're premiering in the fall on Fox, and hopefully it's during NFL season, so people see a lot of ads. And it's actually, real quick, it's not a reboot.
Yes.
We're continuing from where it ended and picking it up.
Okay.
We're moving some of the elements that were kind of, let's just say, a little bit cheesy, and we're kind of, it's more going to be like almost like a Friday Night Lights of a drama. My character, I'm still playing Cody. I own a bar where all the lifeguards go after work, and I mentor some of the younger ones, like, hey man, you might not want to do that. And I also still am an active lifeguard, and I'm pushing for them to write me into rescues because that's my strength. But I'm just happy to be a part of it. It's a huge show. Fox is an amazing place to be. Mick G, I don't know if you know Mick G, the director. He's directing the first episode and is also executive producer. We have a great showrunner, Matt Nix, a great team of writers, and Stephen Amell from Suits, and he was on another show. Arrow is playing the lead. I think because also the cameras nowadays, like we were stuck with some heavy, clanky things trying to shoot ocean rescue. Now you can fly a drone you could fly a drone right past our heads as we're like flying on wave runners or into a rescue, whatever. And it could I think it's gonna be really dynamic, more sleek. And also you're gonna be able to see these characters off duty, which we didn't have a lot of chance. In the original, the show kind of ended when the sun set. So in this show, since I have this bar called the Shoreline and the lifeguards get to hang out there, when you're off duty, you don't have to put on the show that, you can actually show your true colors. And I think being able to explore all the actors, the lifeguards, and their real lives, the good, the bad, the ugly, by having a place for them to go and air it all out is an awesome idea.
Depth, dude. More depth. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. All right, David. Appreciate it. Can't wait to see that. Appreciate you so much, man. Thanks for making time. That was an absolute blast and really inspirational.
Same here, man. What an honor.